Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Srikanth. So I have started this initiative called Career Development Foundation with the main intention of, helping various youth from the marginalized section communities, so that uh, like whatever that knowledge gap is there, right? So knowledge gap is there. So I want to fill that by creating awareness about various career opportunities which are there, and also like kind of fellowships are there for them, and also along with that, it's very important for them for when it comes to giving the various skill developments also. So with that main intention, we have started this initiative. So today, as part of our talk series, we have with us Nitin Kumar. So he is from Tamil Nadu, and this is our episode 6. So I would like to welcome everyone for this talk series. Like Nitin will directly start with the conversation. So with us, Nitin, like he has done his. He was part of JSW Fellowship earlier, and now like he is working in other sectors. So Nitin, like you can introduce about yourself briefly, and also the kind of work you are doing now. Yeah.
So hi. Thank you, Shrikant. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy because one thing is that this initiative, this cause means a lot. Although the scale is something which once we start doing, the scale will automatically come in. But this is a wonderful initiative because fellowships, projects, these kind of things have been percolated in elite areas, but for students who deserve more, and fellowships do usually happen in rural areas, and cohorts are hosted in rural areas, but rural people are not, or rural people from rural backgrounds are not more aware about this opportunity. So I'm very happy in that sense. um, so I'll briefly introduce myself, and you can also share the PPT meantime. One thing is that I come from Chennai, so I'm basically from Tamil Nadu, and I did my bachelor's of social work from Madras School of Social Work. It's a very old organization, very old institute which offers social work degree. And then I started pursuing masters from Madras School of Social Work, the same college. So masters was in development management. So uh, uh, I come from social work background and development background, so have been in this field. But one thing is that I'll talk more about this in the presentation, but just to give you a context, I have done social work, then pursued 2 years of masters in development, but still I needed a fellowship or a rural immersion to get hold of the field scenario, because education or academics is very different. But the reality, once you start working, once you are in the field, once you face the reality, that's when you learn a lot. So academic exposure is one side, but the field exposure and the sort of fellowship experience is actually something which is very valuable. So to talk more about this, so I think I've introduced. We can take more questions if you have any particular questions about my academic exposures, or anything of that sort. Can go to the next slide. So yeah, so what does it actually mean to be in a fellowship? Because fellowship, these words, we keep hearing fellowship, or young explorer, or young professional, these sort of words. But what does it actually mean? So the dictionary meaning of a fellowship is that you get a grant, or you get some sort of a financial assistance to make your own learning or to groom yourself. So that is typically what fellowship means. But in our context, what we say by fellowship is that this is a career launchpad. So because understanding or viewing, or trimming your perspective is very important, because often what happens is that people apply for fellowships. People, even land up in fellowships, but still they have an image of fellowship as a job. But fellowship is more than a job, because in a job, you are more accountable, you're more responsible, your learning takes a backseat. But in fellowship, your learning is primary. And any fellowship, be it JSW Foundation Fellowship, which I was part of, or you might have heard few people here, or many people might have heard about SBA Youth Fellowship or Teach for India Fellowship. Everywhere, the unique selling point is your learning, your own experience, your leadership experience is the primary aspect. then comes your responsibility. So in that way, what a fellowship offers is that you can know your strength, you can know your weakness, because primarily it's about yourself. It's not about the job which is offered to you. So understand fellowship as a career launchpad. Don't consider fellowship as a career itself. Of course, fellowship gives you a lot of experience, which is valued across different sectors. So any 2 years of fellowship or even a 6 months of fellowship is valued, and more valued, in fact, more valued than any job. And I have my own experience. Now I'm currently doing another job, but this fellowship experience actually mattered. So I'll say more about it. But what does it mean to be in a fellowship is that fellowship is a career launchpad for you. You might have had your own academic background. If you're particularly interested in let's say in education, then Teach for India fellowship or any fellowship which works for education is a launchpad for you. Even if you have done social work or even if you have done engineering, this is a place where different individuals from different backgrounds come in, then they start working for a particular cause so that you're ready to go into the organization working full time. So that's one thing. And as I said, learning here is the primary aspect than your work responsibilities. And moreover, your work responsibilities in most of the fellowship is designed by yourself. I'll talk about JSW Foundation Fellowship, but briefly to say, JSW Foundation Fellowship, my role, my project was decided by me. Although the thematic area was given by the fellowship team, the I know the location to work for was given by the fellowship team, but still I had a lot of independence in deciding my own project, what course of action I will take. So this is the liberty or independence you have in any of the fellowships. Do we need the translation? I think someone had bought it. If someone needs translation.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, like there are few people from Karnataka, so I just wanted to know, like, do they need translation? Okay, but we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead. If they need, then I request them to mention in the chat box.
All right, great. And we've spoken about the learning being the primary part, but there's something more than that, because any typical job, let's say, see, I've taken up a new role, which is a full-time permanent role, but it's a job, it's not a fellowship. So what I realize is that now I don't have time to self retrospect, because you have a description of your role, you are working, you're assigned. So everything is very clear now. But in a fellowship journey, the beauty of a fellowship is that the purpose of the fellowship is also to self retrospect, self respect, or sorry, self reflect on what work you do. If you don't reflect, then the fellowship is not complete. So I was placed in Salem. So every week or every month, we used to have a lot of weekly meetings and monthly reports. The purpose of these reports and meetings is to not to report that this work you have done, that work I've completed, but the purpose of these meetings and reports is to see what you have improved, what you have learned. So this is fundamentally the difference between any job and a fellowship, which is very useful when you actually go and start a work. So doing a fellowship is more than something which we see from outside. So that is one thing. And the final part is leadership development. So once you reflect your strength, once you reflect on your work, what happens is that you will get to know your own strengths, your own weakness. So when you will be able to choose your job wisely. So once you start moving out of the fellowship, you will know what best suits you. So in this way, it actually means a lot to be in a fellowship. Of course, a lot of fellowship has a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. You might, before you join a fellowship, you will see a lot of reviews about the fellowship. There will be a lot of reviews of this sort, that sort, or many different reviews. But I'll guarantee that all the fellowship has one positive, which is it actually grooms your leadership. That is for sure. So in that way, if you are looking to apply for any fellowship, then you're really in a good track. So start applying for fellowships. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what to look out for in a fellowship? Now we have learned what it means to be in a fellowship, largely, very broadly. So what to look out for in a fellowship? See, now this is something which everyone has to be very attentive, because one thing is that we randomly apply for fellowships. that is okay, because moreover, we don't have a particular, let's say I applied for a lot of fellowships in 2023. From May I started applying for fellowship because I made my mind, I realized the value of fellowship, so I started applying for a lot of fellowship. But again, I was choosing few of the few of the criteria. One was the sector. Let's say I come from a social work background and I have certain passion, certain interest. I can't go and apply for some technical fellowships. Of course, now you see there is a lot of fellowships which involves a lot of technical aspect. Let's say Teach for India fellowship was there, but I gave it a thought and I didn't apply for Teach for India fellowship because that's very purely of teaching experience. So it involves more of teaching. So you should also look out for these aspects when you look into fellowships. Let's say sector field matters a lot. There are fellowships which are generic in nature. JSW Foundation Fellowship was very generic in nature. It didn't narrow down to any field. So there, as fellows, we were given different teams based on our own interest, our own experience. So these sort of fellowships are very benign. Like you can just go apply. But if you are applying for a fellowship, just for example, I'm saying Teach for India Fellowship, make sure that you at least have an interest in teaching, in engaging with children. So these sort of aspects you could just ensure, because it should not be that you apply for a fellowship just because of the benefits and other things. Also look for interest in other things. So that's one thing. Academic component. So every fellowship has academic component. So you start with an induction training and there is training in between, and you also have they send different fellows. So in this fellowship which I was part of, we had we used to have trainings. Like first training was the induction training. Afterwards, every 3 months there used to be midpoint trainings. So in these trainings they teach us, the project management is the major part which was covered in these trainings. So there are a lot of tools which are used for project management, like the logical framework analysis. We, from outside, when we hear these tools, it's very overwhelming for us. But then once you're into these trainings, you understand that these are tools which is very easy to understand. You like just like being in a college, you be with your own cohort and you learn these things, go to the field and implement it. So this is a very, these are very beautiful aspects of fellowship which you should also remember and probe when you try to apply for this fellowship. When you attend the interviews, you can know what are the academic components offered in this fellowship. And of course, there is academic component and also the field component, which is the hands-on experience. So I was saying, we were having the induction training for the first 15 days in the JSW Foundation Fellowship. Afterwards, we were assigned different teams. So I was given base management as my thematic area, and I was given a location of Tamil Nadu, Salem. Salem is a district in Tamil Nadu. I was sent to this location. So my role is to work or create an independent project around base management in the Salem district. So Salem district also, they had some particular locations. So you have to develop the independent projects. So only two criteria was to not deviate from the theme and not go beyond the location. Now you have your own independence. You have all the freedom to create your own projects. So what happens is that you go, you speak with people, people might have heard about PRA. So PRA is again a very fundamental, very traditional social tool, which is still very valid and still very useful. So during our induction training, we were taught how to do PRA, what is the importance of PRA. So these things were taught to us. Now the other unique selling point of this fellowship is that you are trained, you are sent to the field, again you come back, so that your peers also carry a lot of experience. You come and discuss among your peers. So this journey is again not a very linear journey that you hear from your like your trainers. You go implement, again come back and just listen to your trainers and go back. So this is like you have a set of experience in the 3 months in the field, then you come to the next training, then hear from your co-fellows, your peers, then co-learn. So this is a very beautiful, aspects of any fellowships. So it's very interesting from, it's very interesting. Rather, being from outside, you definitely be interested, but going inside, this is way more interesting, way more engaging. So you enjoy the process. So other thing is locations. So let's say there are fellowships, like you might have heard about Nipun Fellowship, which is particularly based out of Uttar Pradesh. So also look for these aspects, because one thing is that I've also realized, I've seen a few co-fellows having problems with location. So make your mind, because fellowship is not like a job again. So once you go, you have to break your comfort zone. So once you go and you're assigned a location, you might have, if you have a genuine problem, then you can go speak. But the fellowship itself is like you're breaking out of your comfort zone, you're open to learning. So also have this these things in mind when you apply for this fellowship itself. Let's say you apply for a fellowship, and it's very clear that your state is not location part of the fellowship. Then you go into the fellowship, and once the location is given, then you have discomfort that I'm very away from my home state. So these sort of things also you have it in mind, because everyone will have their own ways of seeing things. If prior things you get to know, then it would be easy for you to make up your mind. So that's one thing. And stipends. So these are very important aspects of any fellowship. See, stipend is very different from salary, because salary has the because you do a work and you get paid for the work. Stipend here means you're getting monetary support to do your work. It's like not you, let's say I've been assigned a task, I go complete the task and I get the money. So the stipend is not that. So in fellowships, you get stipend. The role of the stipend is to support your fellowship journey. So this is very important to, you should have this in mind before, joining a fellowship, because often it happens that we tend to look the stipend as a salary itself. So of course, we do save money from the salary. I mean, from the stipend, we spend it for ourselves. That does happen. But once you have this kind of fundamental things in mind, then you will not have complaints about these stipends, because I see most of the fellowship having very handsome stipends. It's actually, see, for JSW Foundation Fellowship, we were having 30,000 as our stipend. 30,000 is a very significant amount, because most of us have been placed in rural areas, and we didn't have any complaints. Of course, it varies based on the location. Someone who is placed near Mumbai, so there are locations for this fellowship near Mumbai. So the cost of living is very high there. And we were placed in Salem. So myself and there are three other fellows in Salem. So our cost of living was very low, but significantly everyone were able to manage from this stipend. So that is very important. So it's not like it's very less money, and you don't get to save the money, and you have. So most of the fellowship offer a very handsome, very good stipend package. So this is also which you can, when you look out for fellowship, you can also keep this in mind. And one more aspect is post fellowship scope. We'll talk about this in the upcoming slides. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So what does it take to be in a fellowship? Now we have understood the first two parts. Now is the real part. See, when you are in the fellowship, you have made your mind, because you have shortlisted the fellowship based on your interest, passion. Now, once you're into the fellowship, now it's going to be that journey. So being in the fellowship, you must make sure that this is a journey. So you should not you should not be like, so 1 month has happened, I'm going to expect this result I'm going to expect. Or like say, because this happens in any fellowship, people go inside and they start thinking about the outcome or the end result of the fellowship. But fellowship itself is a journey. So you go in and try to enjoy each and every moment. Even I had this issue, everyone will have, because you're out of your comfort zone, you're breaking your comfort zone. So you'd have a lot of second thoughts about the end of the fellowship. What am I going to get out of this fellowship? But now, since I'm out of the fellowship, I'm very sure that these are certain things I should have also corrected. When you're inside the fellowship, just see what is the possibility, how much maximum you can make out of this fellowship. So don't leave out your passion. Your passion interest should be the first seat of your time in the fellowship, and be open to learning, because that 2 years or the 1 year which you are in the fellowship is never going to come back, because you're going to move out of the fellowship. Most probably you are going to take the other opportunities. The opportunities also will speak. But once you are in the fellowship, you can be open to learning, because no job offers more space to learn, because once you're in the job, then you're in a kind of a rat race. So these are something which, and of course, be very optimistic, because any fellowship, end of the fellowship, you are going to have a great advantage compared to the other candidates, because the most of the recruiters see fellowship, value fellowship more than any other. Let's say someone who has 2 years of experience, 2 years of job experience, is actually not seen great than a person who is actually having a 2 years of fellowship experience. Because you know what, any fellowship experience has a lot of resilience involved in it. They know, the recruiters know that you have broken your comfort zone, you actually handled a lot of tough times. So in that way, this is valued. This is you can be rest assured that this is valued among recruiters. Next slide. Yeah. So this is something which we were talking about, because this section usually has a lot of doubts and questions. We can actually take a lot of questions, but I'll briefly speak about post fellowship opportunities. So one is, while you are in the fellowship, one significant opportunity for you is to network, because any fellowship, you meet a lot of people, you meet government officials, you meet you meet similarly interested co-fellows, you meet communities. So you constantly make sure that you network. See, it's not that every day I take my pen and I do network. This usually happens in a fellowship. So end of the fellowship, you will definitely have a lot of lot of network. So it's not that after fellowship you're stuck, you don't know what to do. Definitely after a fellowship you will have a lot of network. So it's easy to just move on and choose what you're interested in. So that's one thing. And any fellowship experience is very, I was just saying about the recruiter's point of view. I've learned that recruiters value fellowship more than any full-time experience, because they know how tough it is to be in a fellowship, how much enormous learning any fellows goes in compared to any other full-time employee. So that is something. So placements. So this differs based on every fellowship to fellowship. There are fellowship which offers placement support. So I'll talk about JSW Foundation Fellowship in the next slide, particularly. But briefly to say, this fellowship also has a placement component, but it's not like they offer you placement, or they promise you placements. That whatever you are interested in, the last 3 months, you get to speak with the fellowship team, and they hear from you what are you interested in. Let's say I'm interested in pursuing in higher studies, or I'm interested in pursuing any other, let's say PhD. If I've already done higher studies, let's say PhD I'm interested in. So they support you, they give you a letter of support, they help you in doing the application process, because usually doing a master's or doing a fellowship, a PhD with scholarship, with with proper support is not very easy. So after this fellowship, most of the fellowship offers this. It's like certain things they explicitly mention, but you can be rest assured that end of your fellowship, no fellowship team is going to just leave you. They'll definitely offer you based on your interest. Post graduation, higher studies, because if you are interested in higher studies or something, your fellowship team is going to guide you. I'm not saying specifically this fellowship is going to do this much, but average all the fellowship guides you based on your interest. Absorption in organization, let's say I've been working in Teach for India as a fellow. Absorption depends. So you should also, when we're speaking about what to look out for in a fellowship, you should also look out for this in the fellowship advertisement itself, because based on this only your understanding will improve. Certain fellowships has this component of absorption, but certain people don't explicitly mention it, but this component comes in. And certain people, they also say that no, absorption is not possible. So also have this thing in mind, because if you're particularly interested or going into the fellowship with this thing in mind, then sometimes it, like, you should not feel that this thing not happening, though I'm going to leave out this fellowship. So initially itself, you make your mind or be aware about what's the prospect of this fellowship. But any fellowship has a wonderful prospects, because the fellowship, no fellowship team will leave you just like that after the fellowship. They are going to support you. They are going to give you a certificate which is valued among recruiters. They will definitely give you letter of supports if you are going into an high studies or any academic pursuit or even job pursuit. So this you can be rest assured. So you not have any anxiety in this regard. Next slide, next slide. So so these are the contents which I had. Now I'll very leisurely talk about my experience. So see, this fellowship, JSW Foundation Fellowship, was very unique. in two terms. So one was, usually most of the fellowship, what happens is that I'll just talk about the SBA Youth Fellowship. So SBA Youth Fellowship, they take in fellows, they are placed in the field, and usually NGO partners, there are different NGO partners, and they are tied with the NGO partners. But this fellowship is like, there is this corporate component in JSW Foundation Fellowship. So I Volunteer is the organization which implements this fellowship. They train you. So actually we are actually answerable to I Volunteers. Answerable in the sense, I Volunteer take care of us. But then we are placed in and around the JSW steel or JSW cement plant. So our fellows are placed around cement plant, and we have an holistic CSR experience. So the local in charge of this fellowship would be the CSR head of that particular plant. So we were in Salem. So in Salem steel, JSW, Salem steel plant, there is a CSR head. So the local person who is as a like guide or mentor to us is the CSR person. So what happens is that you are not only working with the community, you're also working with a corporate. So this is a very very balanced approach. So when you're in the community, you get to hear a lot of problems from the community, because they tend to say, the community tend to say that this corporate is there, they are not doing us anything. I know this problem is there, that problem is there, and you go to the corporate, you sit with your CSR, you hear from your CSR, and they say a different version. Both versions are valid, because this fellowship offers that balance to us. Yeah, of course, every fellowship has its own positiveness, its own its own unique selling points. But for JSW Foundation Fellowship, this is a very different, because other fellowship doesn't offer this component, a corporate and community component. So this also makes you very diplomatic. Once you complete this fellowship, you're more a balanced person. You're not into one particular aspect. You can face problems in a very balanced manner. So this definitely happens. You will get to know, once you're out of the fellowship, you will get to know you've learned a lot of tolerance. You've learned a lot of balance. You face world a little different than before the fellowship. So this is something. So my experience, I went into the fellowship. So I was preparing for UPSC civils from 2022. From 2022 onwards, I was preparing full time for a year. After 2023's first attempt, I realized this. Okay, fine. I prepared it for one full year with all full determination, and that didn't work out. Maybe that's not my cup of tea. I thought I'll give my second attempt, but not preparing fully. So I wanted to do a fellowship, because as I said, I did my bachelor's in social work and then MA in development management, but still I wanted to have that hands-on field experience before going into a full-time job. So I thought I'll apply for fellowships. I applied for 3 to 4 fellowships, and JSW Foundation Fellowship was one such fellowship. The selection process itself was very different compared to a full-time job. So this was more about understanding my passion, my determination to work for communities. So right from the interview process, my application process, then interview process, I enjoyed this journey. So we were 30 fellows, cohort of 30 fellows, and this was the second batch. So the first batch was actually pursuing the fellowship. So first batch location was in Maharashtra and Karnataka. Karnataka, it was Vijayanagar, Bellary district. And for the second batch, they thought of expanding the location. So during the interview itself, they told that we are going to add 3 more locations to this fellowship. So we were 30 people. So we were called to Pune. So this Pune, there's this state service academy called Yashwant Rao Academy. So we were called there. There was like around 1 week training was given there. We were introduced. Lot of ice got broken, and then we were taken to TSS Tuljapur. There we learned about PRA techniques, how to interact with community, how to engage with community. These sort of things were taught to us. Afterwards, we were called to the JSW Foundation headquarters in Mumbai. There we were introduced to the this foundation team members, because we are going to the field and we are going to interact with CSR people. So that orientation was also given. Now you see, this induction also had a lot of balance activities. We were trained in PRA, which has to do with social tools. We were taken to BKC and made us interact with the corporate people. So after this 15 days of this training, we were all allotted our own locations. So with myself, there were 3 other fellows who were allotted Salem location, and we were given different themes. So I was given waste management. There were a couple of fellows who were given livelihood team, one in women livelihood and one in agriculture livelihood, and one fellow was given education as the theme. So our role or our primary motive was to go back to our respective locations and take up the respective team allotted and develop a project. So how do you do that? Now you have been taught about PRA. You go, you visit the community, interact with people using the PRA techniques, then learn from the people. 6 weeks were given to us. Yeah, around 6 weeks. I think 1.5 months were given to us. We did all this. We all the 4 fellows in Salem did this, and other fellows in their own respective locations did this. We all came back again to Pune in YMCA Pune. We gathered there. Then we interacted. We shared our own learnings. Now we were taught the LFA, the logical framework, which is the fundamental or the backbone for any project management. Now, based on our own, understanding from the field, we developed a project statement. We developed a project idea, very pilot project idea. Then again, after this training, we went to the field. Then we started conducting a baseline survey, because now we have a project idea. We need to collect information from the field with regard to the project idea. All the fellows in different locations conducted the baseline survey and also did few basic engagements with the community, which was also guided by the fellowship team. Then again, after 3 months, we came to Pune, to MCA Pune. We were again taught how to actually start implementing the project based on the baseline survey. So now you see the organic, structure of the fellowship. Any fellowship has the structures. So let's say if it is a TFI fellowship, you have different semesters, you have different components. So fellowship, you sometimes people have this view that fellowship is that we are given stipend, we go, we just have our own time. That is also not true. Again, certain people view that fellowship is just that it's not a job, but then we are also assigned a certain task. We go and implement that task and come back. No, both these extremes are wrong. Fellowship is your own journey with a very guided approach from the fellowship team or by the experts. So this was the experience which we had. This had a lot of my own experience had a lot of hiccups. I had a lot of emotional times in this last 1 year itself, because it's not easy when you're away from your home, when there is a very less of a support system. Of course, there are a lot of support system, but ultimately it's who you have to manage with. You have to manage everything in the field. So now, after coming back from the fellowship, I value this, these experience, this journey a lot. So it happens for any fellow, it happens in any fellowship that you have a lot of hardships, you are out of the comfort zone, you face a lot of tough times. But once you come back from the fellowship, then you value a lot, then you try to reflect that what, valuable experience you have had in the fellowship. So if I have to say briefly, I can see a different version of myself before the fellowship, and after the fellowship, I've become a little more resilient. I've become a little more tolerant to things. I'm now more focused on certain things. I'll also say the current role of mine very briefly. Now I work with an organization called Aided Action. It's an international NGO which works for education for marginalized and underprivileged sections. So now I'm able to see myself more focused in the work, because the fellowship was that what anything which you do after this fellowship feels like a comfort zone. So that kind of an experience which you have had, and it's very valuable, and it's very personalized for every fellow. So I can't speak about the other fellow. It's very personalized experience and wonderful experience to have. And self SWOT, because if you sit with a paper and try to do a SWOT analysis, you might come up with some sort of strength, some sort of weakness. But this whole fellowship journey itself is a SWOT analysis. That's when the monthly reports or weekly meeting helps. You try to reflect on your own work. You try to learn from your friends' work, your co-fellows' work. You naturally are involved in a SWOT analysis process. So you get, now I know what are my strengths. Probably I'll work on my weaknesses, and I know what are the opportunities for me. Probably I'll also keep a watch on my threats, because this fellowship journey had me into this process naturally. And of course, this process, once you're inside, it's very tough. You feel very much out of the comfort. But then after all this process, you will definitely cherish it. And one thing which is like the mantra or the takeaway, not the mantra, with the takeaway from my experience is that I've started looking, my whole career or my whole this journey as a continuous process. This fellowship started and it got to an end. So it's not the view anymore. Like fellowship was part of the larger journey. It's not, I mean, if I have to put it very in a layman term, I don't see, I see whole of my experience as one journey. Now I'm in aided action, which is a part of the larger journey. This fellowship makes you view your career in a very sensible, very easy way. So that is also something, and it's very personalized. That's what I'm saying. It's very personalized. Once you're into this journey, you'll realize. So it's a wonderful journey, and if you're looking to apply for a fellowships, and that's the right, that's the right, you're in a right place. So start applying for the fellowship. Just keep in mind, you can also get this PPT. Maybe Shrikant can share this PPT because a PPT doesn't have any much content in it, but you can just keep a watch on when you're applying for the PPT, what things to look for, whether you are the right person to be in. See, right person in the sense, I'm not saying about qualification. For fellowship, that's the beauty of a fellowship. Anyone is eligible, but just you should make sure that you have the interest, you have the passion, you have the determination to be in the community. If you're okay to come out of your comfort zone and just have this experience and enjoy. So these are the qualifications or eligibility to be in a fellowship. So I wish a wonderful fellowship journey for people who are applying, and wish you the best, and I'll definitely be happy to taking questions. And yeah, one thing is that you can connect with me in my LinkedIn or any other. You can also write to me or write to Shrikant. He can forward to me. And also share among your friends. They can also write to me. I'm very open because these are something we are like we can learn from each other. So this should not go. We will like this platform is to co-learn. And again, I wish the best for you guys, and also thank Shrikant and wish him the best for this wonderful initiative.
Thanks a lot, Nitin. Now we have close to 1 minute left. So like, what should we do, Prakash, Sana, and the other person who is yet to rename themselves? Like, should we rejoin the call, or like, is it fine if we rejoin the call?
Yes,
Sana?
sir. No problem, sir.
Okay, okay. Please join through the same link so that we can take your questions and we'll have further discussion around it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.